Hey everyone, welcome to the Nice Agile podcast. Again, we've got another video episode that we hope that you enjoy. Today's episode is a round table on product leadership. So something a bit different than we normally do, something exciting, and we've got some really great guests. We've got Steve Martin, who has been a really great friend to us, a really great inspiration to us. Steve is an author, he's an agile coach, he's a consultant, he does it all. He's just got amazing experience and we're so grateful for his time and his wisdom. And then we've got Mandy. Mandy does many things. She's a podcaster, she's been a scrum master, agile coach, just amazing human being, and she's come to speak with us before, and yeah, it's just had so much great wisdom as well. And then we have another friend of ours, Stephanie Cully from America, and Stephanie's got some great experience. I won't say too much because she's about to do her own intro, but just to say it's been a real pleasure getting to know her, having her on the podcast, and she's been just so helpful to myself and Zara. So I'm really grateful to have everybody on the podcast. So thanks, guys. Hope you enjoy. Please like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, all that good stuff. All right, cheers.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. So a little bit about myself. Within the community, I'm an Agile career coach. I've been doing this. I have my own business for about 5 years now. Started off running a Scrum immersion program, and I've shifted a little bit more back into a full-time role. So I'm actually doing product ownership and Scrum Master role right now, and really excited to help the community with anything that they need in terms of careers. So that's a little bit about me. And Kevin, did we want to jump into questions, or how did we want to do this?
I think so. Let's go for it. So I think Steph's got some questions. She's going to hand them over. She's going to ask Mandy, Steve, we'd love you guys to answer. And then if anybody else wants to answer as well, give your feedback. It would be great. But yeah, Steph, I'll handle it over to you.
Sounds great. So the first question that I had is, what does a great product owner actually do versus what's written in the Scrum guides?
So I'll let Mandy go first. Mandy, go on.
Okay, so I'm going to do, a lot of people will know that I love metaphors and I love analogies because my brain works in kind of like a visual way. I've always been a bit of a pattern identifier and recognizer. So on what you've just said, in the Scrum Guide, people will know that the product owner has accountabilities. He or she has a product backlog. He or she has, accountability, responsibility for communicating, and he or she has accountability for reporting correctly. So, I'm not going to verbatim say what's in the Scrum Guide because that's just pointless. But what I would add is that that's a product owner, it's Scrum Guide. But what makes a product owner great is if you think about plus one. Plus one is when you take somebody to a party. Who wants to be my plus one? So plus one for me is a great product owner has all of the basics, but also has strategic vision, and strategic vision just doesn't come if you're sitting alone, hibernating. It's something where you do have to go and do the research. You do have to know about what's happening in the world politically, commercially, economically, and that's what helps to create this strategic vision, because they also network and partner with others. Then they have to be not just be able to communicate, but they should be able to, if they have a plus one, they should be able to say no to stakeholders respectfully and courageously, especially if they know that something's going to impede the product. And then the third point I've got is reports have to be accurate. So if there is a measure, which there always is, they have to be accurate. There has to be follow through so that improvements can be made. But the plus one there is that they have empathy and they really know what and where the real struggles are. So they know the end users, they know the customers, they know their stakeholders, and they can really use empathy in that. And lastly, a great product owner will have a CEO mindset.
I was going to say, Mark or Steve, did you guys want to?
Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Mandy. That was, I echo a lot of that, especially around the sort of strategic vision. It's something that kind of gets lost a lot of times, and the role of product owner kind of gets misunderstood as it's more of a kind of commercial manager these days, which is really against the Scrum Guide. My big perspective of the role of a great product owner is that they operate on 3 different levels. So one is at that team level and being a leader within the team, not a manager, a leader, and is able to inspire and drive the team forward with a real focus on outcomes and help build that kind of motivational element into the team alongside the Scrum Master, of course. The second level is at stakeholder level, and you mentioned, Mandy, there about being able to push back. I think there's a real element of managing stakeholders, being able to coordinate and help stakeholders understand what's going on the ground and being able to communicate effectively. And then the third level, as you mentioned there, man, is customer. And something that gets really lost along the way is the role of product owner being that representative of customer, being very much involved in helping understand, getting inside the mind of the customer, being able to look at what is the market telling us, and what do we need to know? How do I, if I'm focusing beyond this sort of short-term sort of setup of where we are, what's coming down the track that I can then be able to help influence and map out a little bit of a path of where our team is going in terms of the products that we're building, the services that we're providing. So yeah, for me, it's those 3 levels. And now a good product owner, to compare the difference, a good product owner might be effective on 2 of those. But a great product owner is a master of all 3.
I just thought Pete had a good question that I relate to in the comments there. How would you define a...
Could I just add
product?
one short thing to that previous question? Is that okay?
Go for it, Marco. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was
You're in
invited
Miami.
by
You
Stephanie.
can do whatever you want.
I was invited by Stephanie, and I let Steve take the floor. And Steve, that was great. I love the 3 levels. And Mandy, that was brilliant. I think there's only just very little I can add to this. And I'm going to take it from the Scrum Guide. And Steve and Mandy mentioned it about a true leader who serves. That's for the Scrum Master. But you now imagine that that's possible for the product owner. And let's think about 2 other things: collaboration and partnership. Okay, just keep those ideas in mind with regards to everyone that you're working with as a great product owner. Okay, you're there to collaborate with the team as a team member. You're there to collaborate with the stakeholders as a bigger team. And the relationship is that you should be always looking for is partnering with people. So that's the only thing I wanted to add to that question.
Thank you, Marco. Just wanted to go back to Pete's question to see if you guys want to add anything to that as well. Is how would you define a product? Mandy, Steve? Mandy. So we default that we'll always go to you, Mandy, first. Ladies first, and then we'll go to Steve.
So a product is something that has utility for others. And I'm going to keep it very broad and basic there, because it's so vast nowadays. It can be just used in many, many ways. So I'm going to say a product is something that has utility for others.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Something that has value, fundamentally. So if it solves a problem, essentially. I can't really say more than that, to be honest.
I can add to that as well. It's great. I love it. A product, I would say, is something that that goes hand in hand with work. So if you imagine a customer, a user, they're working. So a product is something that's going to help them to work better. And when we talk about value, we're talking about return on investment. In other words, saving costs or generating money. So imagine if you had to dig a ground with your hands to plant a tree, and now you actually had this product that was called a spade. Maybe it's going to be a bit quicker, and maybe that product might be one of those diggers, and that'll be even quicker. So you're going to get a return on investment and be able to do more work. So it's all about value, and that value transforms into how is it going to improve the work that a user or a customer is doing.
Awesome. Thanks, Marco. Pete, did you want to add anything more to that?
No, not necessarily. Thank you for the responses. I'm always interested to know different people's views on that. And I think sometimes I'm exploring what people feel the difference is between a product and a project. Because I think those two lines get quite blurred together. And a lot of what you've said there would probably apply to a project as well. I mean, a project should deliver value, right? And it should deliver something that changes something or solves a problem. But a product, in my view, is something that arguably has a life, and it endures, and it keeps evolving and adapting, and it arguably doesn't end at any point. Whereas a project would be something which would be more of something you might deliver in a fixed time, or comes to an end point when then nothing else is then done on it. But I can see Mark's getting excited and he's got his hands up, so hopefully that stirs some thoughts.
I love that addition. I really do, about a project and product. And the only thing that I'd add to what you said is a project is a means of delivering value. It's a means. It's an adventure. It's a way of working. And it's like you say, it's a fixed timeline to deliver that value. Whereas the product is the result of, if you're working in projects. And so you kind of like said that, and I liked it. I just wanted to add that word means as a way of working.
Yeah,
So
nice.
I was going to say, I had a follow-up question for Stephen, for Mandy. So you guys talked a little bit about this already, where a product owner spends some of their time, but I wanted to see, in addition to what you talked about, researching, saying no to stakeholders where appropriate, what are some of the places where are some of the places that product owners spend most of their time?
For me, what I've seen is it depends on where the product is at, and it also depends on the size of the product. So there's so many other kind of factors that come into play. I mean, if it's like me with my product that I've got, I spend time on, I've spent a lot of time at the front, so at the beginning of my product development, to try and understand the concept and why I'm doing it, and also the kind of branding I wanted, the design. And also I spent a good couple of years, if not longer, working out where to actually where to host my product that I've got. And when Pete mentioned the project, I think, the project is all about a start and an end. And I'm going to philosophically say, it's a little bit like my life. There's going to be a start and an end and a middle bit, and that's the project Mandy. But I think, yeah, I would say that for a product owner who is starting out, that they'll definitely be in the working out the concepts, working out the value, the business case. And as the product matures, then they're going to know that as a product is evolving, how else can they still bring value and profitability in order for the product to keep on evolving. Otherwise, it will be that, okay, this product now is no longer in circulation.
Something.
Yeah, it's a really good way to articulate it. I mean, I think in terms of the question as to where does the product owner spend most of the time, so where should the product owner spend most of the time? I like what you said there, Mandy, about where should it? So, actually, yes, absolutely. It depends on the life cycle of the product for sure. What I tend to see in my walk of life is, I talked about those 3 layers, is that the product owner gets caught very easily into that sort of stakeholder management layer and being just pulled into all sorts of different directions of keeping, the people who are interested as informed as possible, whereas the layer of the team and also the customer layer is probably where they should be spending a lot more of their time. And there are now tools and systems that we can use that can actually accommodate that stakeholder layer, which we should really be focusing more of our attention on. Being able to sort of help the product owner spend, really focus and understand the customer a lot more and be able to serve and lead the team in other ways as well. I once coached a product owner who was basically in meetings all day long, and she would, and this is like stakeholder meetings, project update meetings, all sorts of things, commercial, strategy meetings and that kind of thing. And I think she had like a 3 or 4 year old toddler. I don't know, do you call them toddlers at 4? Maybe not. But her, so she would basically finish work at like 6 o'clock, deal with the sort of parenting duties between the sort of 6 and 8, those sort of hours, and then at 8 o'clock, when the child was in bed, she would then do her day job of product ownership and really be able to sort of be effective as a product owner in that kind of. So she would work till like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, trying to cope with that, and that was a sort of a real indicator of just where the system is broken and where that role is just misunderstood and misguided. She was burning out, fundamentally.
Yeah. I can see that happening sometimes, for sure. What were you going to say, Mandy?
I was going to say, I appreciate what you're saying, Stephen, and you're right. There is a fundamental break in a system, but I have to add my kind of penny's worth that sometimes, especially if you're a single parent, like I have been, you have to make sacrifices. And if you have a vision and you want to go towards that vision, and you have to do certain things, you're gonna do them. I did a full-time degree as a mature student. I had 2 small children, and I put myself through university, and I also worked because I had to. And I've never looked back from working hard. I've never looked back. Similarly, people can resonate with this. I think nobody looks back after they've gone off and been on any kind of an exercise, whether it's running, doing a class, doing a walk. You never, ever come back and say, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. You always feel better. So I definitely think the system is broken if people are doing midnight, all-nighters, regularly. If it's becoming a norm, I think it's so bad because we're not helping each other, because there's loads of ways that we can help each other.
Zara, did you have
That's
some follow-up questions? Or I know that you had some questions on your...
Yes, I will ask another question if there is not any more thought to add to previous one, or could you have
Sure.
something?
Mhm.
I would say I really liked what both Steve and Mandy bounced on with regards to actually overdoing it and burning out. I'll just add this is that the product owner, while he is accountable for everything that is said in the Scrum Guide, and a great product owner would actually be on these 3 layers, and there'll be more to it, okay, than just what's said in the Scrum Guide. Just remember what I said about partnering and collaboration. And in the Scrum Guide, it talks about, he can delegate. So a great product owner will keep that accountability and include others in the responsibility of doing the work that a product owner has. So if that burnout is causing an effect, it may be a sign of, like you say, that dysfunction, that problem. So I'd say it's a great product owner would be able to recognize that signal and will be able to rely on others to do some of the work and keep the accountability. Sorry, Peter, you put your hand up. Well, you wanted to add something, please?
Yeah. I didn't want to derail the conversation. That's all. It got me thinking about, like, from the experience that we've got here and the people who have obviously been in this role for some time, like, what are some of the things that you see product owners doing that they arguably shouldn't be doing?
That's a great question. Mandy, I can see you're ready to jump on that one.
I think if you're working in a Scrum and you've got a Scrum Master and you've got a dev team and you're the product owner should let go of the duties that reside with the dev team and the Scrum Master. I think if the product owner tries to assume too many duties, they are then themselves at risk of burning out. And not only that, you're taking away from the empowerment of the others. What is the point of them if in the team if the product owner is going to come along and take over? So that, yes, simply put, that's one of the things that product owners should not do. There are many other things, but I'll leave it there.
Yeah, and vice versa. It could be where the product owner is outside of the team, okay? And he's more of like just sending things over the fence, like Steve was saying, of these layers. Okay, so if he's only working at the stakeholder level and he's just throwing things across and giving orders, he's not really being a leader, a true leader who serves, and he's not being a team member. So this is really important. There's many things that you can see. I've seen product owners doing that. And I've also seen the opposite, where a great product owner is actually seeing himself as a pure team member, but also working at those levels that Steve mentioned. So that's like signals when you see the difference of different product owners. I've also seen product owners where they share accountability with the developers in the sense that they are developing as well, but it's more so because it's an agreement within the team. And that is something like what Mandy says. If they're taking over, then that can cause problems. But if they're actually being part of the team and like saying, I can do that if you want, that's where you see the difference. Does that help add some things to what Mandy said? Maybe Steve wanted to jump in now, or Stephanie?
Stephanie, maybe you can. What do you think?
That's a good question. So around things that product owners shouldn't be doing, I definitely relate to what Mandy says. I see a lot of folks jumping in and doing things that maybe they're in some other roles that they shouldn't necessarily be doing. Another thing that product owners do that they probably shouldn't be doing, had to think about that for a minute. Let me toss it over to Steve while I think about it for a minute. Sorry about that, guys. Put me on the
Very
spot.
well delegated. I like that. I mean, like, there's all sorts of anti-patterns with the role of the product owner, and a lot of it comes down to lack of training, lack of understanding of the role, not no guidance around, or lack of guidance around roles and responsibilities. You see product owners who kind of get involved in the actually the sort of technical aspects of the requirements, and actually try to influence on how something should be developed. Estimations. Oh my goodness, that's times where I've seen actually a conversation with product owner and stakeholder, and the product owner giving the estimation to the stakeholder without having any communication with the team. These kind of things. There's all sorts of stuff. There's a big list. Stephanie, I've given you enough time there to have a think.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so as far as things that they shouldn't be doing, I was going to say, like, around some of the leadership things, I think they really need to make sure that they're aligned with leaders. Sometimes they don't get alignment, so then there's a lot of confusion around what should or shouldn't be done from a team perspective, the things that they should be focused on. But I think that goes back to what Mandy and Steve were saying around making sure that you're talking to your customers, making sure you're talking to your stakeholders and everything like that. Oh, do we have a question from Kabir? I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right.
Yeah, that's correct. It's not much like a question. It's more like what I've seen product owners do that they shouldn't be doing. Is more like sometimes product owners go into meetings promising the stakeholders on the roadmap. This will be completed by this time of the, at so time of the month. It brings a lot of pressure on the team, because then they now come back to the team and say, well, we have this milestone that we need to complete. That brings a pressure on the team. Try to coach product owners on that, especially the ones I've worked with, to like, well, that's a team decision. It's not you. That's not on you to go decide this kind of stuff with the stakeholders. And anytime you give people dates, they're always going to hold you accountable to that. So I think that's yeah.
I think we should look at nature, Mother Nature. Mother Nature has designed, during pregnancy, the baby is likely to not be on time. So nature has designed this, within the eco life cycle. I think product owners should definitely not put themselves under so much pressure to say this is going to be delivered at this time. If they do end up saying these things, they've got to be able to caveat them with risks and constraints and dependencies, heavily caveat them. And in fact, the RAID log with the constraints is something that the product owner should be in their black book.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that as well, because that was great adding that, Kabir. I'm just going to take a pure Scrum perspective as a framework for this edition. Okay, let's remember that whatever practices you add to Scrum are practices that you're using within the frame of Scrum, and they are not part of Scrum. So given your context, given the context that you're in, maybe that is a situation where you're doing a more of a project management type of product ownership role. And if you think about that, you can see that then from the layer point of view that Steve was talking about, you're not necessarily being on the team. You're more so being someone that's ordering the team. And so therefore, it will place pressure. So this comes back to the dysfunction of understanding the role Steve was mentioning about. So just taking a pure Scrum view of it, just remember everything that we use within the frame of Scrum that is not part of Scrum, because it's just a framework, will have different ways of affecting the team. But a lot of it is related to context. And that's where a scrum master or a coach would come in to help guide that team towards better ways of working. Not necessarily just talking scrum point of view, but actually finding better ways of actually responding to that need. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Yeah, it was so good, helpful. So thank you all. Really great points. I want to ask another question that kind of we talked about it, but I will ask one more time this question. What do product owners struggle most? Like, is it product backlog management? Is it talking, communicating with a stakeholder, or any other things? Practically, what is their most challenges? Mandy?
Honestly, I think the product owner struggles the most with missed deadlines.
Great. Agreed.
Do you have any advice around that, Mandy, in terms of product owners struggling with deadlines?
Yeah, definitely. I think there should be, if the team are fortunate enough that they've got a scrum master and they are working in Scrum, in pure Scrum, then the relationship between the product owner, scrum master, the relationship should be really tight. And you can't just demand that relationship to be tight. You've got to let go of your ego. You've got to go in, as Mark was saying right at the beginning, you've got to have that level of serving. You're doing something for the greater good. And and I think by doing that and by understanding the risks and the problems and the way that development teams are working, they'll have a much better view of. They will know as well instinctively that the team are collaborating on this, and they're not going to deliver this in a week's time. It's not going to happen. If you're not listening, if the product owner is not listening, and I mean truly listening, I don't mean they come into a scrum meeting and they're on their phone playing a game. None of that, or they're shifting around. If their focus isn't there, they're going to miss these subtleties. They're going to go away and think, oh yeah, the team are still on track. The team are still on track. They're not on track. You totally missed it. Yeah.
Thanks,
Did that
Mandy.
answer the question?
It did. Yeah, that was very helpful, Mandy. Steve, did you want to answer around what's the most challenging? I'm sorry, what was the question again, Sarah? Was it what's the most, or what do product owners struggle with the most?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, just as Mandy says, around deadlines, and obviously Scrum Master being able to help with that is also helpful. But I think for me, and I mentioned before about the stakeholder management side, and this links into prioritization as well, and the ability to be able to push back, but with kindness, we understand that this requirement is important to you, but we have other priorities that at the moment we feel will provide more value to our customer, and these things get tripped up and misunderstood in a lot of ways. Things like not having clear OKRs that everybody's aligned to. Having conflicting priorities across different areas of the business, which can put an added pressure onto the product owner to be able to understand where can I best manage this situation. So being able, and I mean I do a lot of work with OKRs and helping stakeholders, product owners, the team actually align on having customer value OKRs, where if a stakeholder comes in and says, I need this widget urgently, and the product owner is then in a powerful position to say, we all agreed that these were the priorities. This is what our OKRs are driving our priorities for, and so this is how we're going to work it. However, what we'll do is we will negotiate, and this is the empowerment part where the product owner is in a position to be able to say, if this widget is really urgent and a priority, then something off the bottom has to fall out. We cannot code. This is the capability of the team. We have to be able to manage that.
Peter, you had your hand up.
Yeah, there's a good point there. One of the points that Steve just made there about being able to say no, and particularly be used in the scenario where someone says asking for a widget. I think, from my perspective as a product owner, one of the things that this product owner should be doing, and they often don't, is asking, what are you trying to actually achieve? Because they might not need a widget, there might be something else. And I think product owners tend to sometimes focus too much on delivering the things that people are asking them to deliver, rather than actually trying to figure out what the actual outcome is that that person wants to actually get to. Which leads me on to the second point, that I think that generally, from my experience of working with product owners, they tend to be very good at understanding who their customer is, tend to be very good at managing stakeholders and working collaboratively with people, understanding their backlogs and all that kind of stuff. The thing that always seems to get missed is, how do we measure whether what we've delivered is achieving the outcome that we set out to deliver? And it always gets forgotten. And it's one of the most vital bits of it, because you're delivering things and then never getting any understanding whether that thing has actually delivered what it was supposed to. And if it didn't, why not? And all that kind of stuff. So yeah, just a couple of points there.
I think
Yeah, that's great.
Just a quick one. What Peter has said really resonates, because when you have product owners who are domain experts, and they could be domain experts because they started in a certain organization, company, sector, so they know it inside out. They started in a call center, for example, supporting that way. Then they slowly came along, went into architecture, or, so shifting roles, especially when you're early in your career, is a really good way to get into product. Because like you say, Peter, the value is that product owner knows that product and knows that this product is going there, or can see that life cycle of it. But taking their eye off the ball, i.e. the product, the outcome, it detracts from the value.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's an interesting question about struggling. What do product owners struggle with? And I'm going to take a different perspective about, rather than from a personal point of view, but from what I've seen on the ground with young product owners and many product owners in the industry, is how they see their role. And we're going back to this, understanding the role and the effect, the influence that the organization has on that person as a product owner. So the thing that I wanted to add to that was about change, causing change and evolving as a product owner. And most product owners, I'd say, maybe it's because it's a struggle, maybe it's something else, okay? They don't evolve. They just sit in the system that they are working in and accept the system as it is. So we take the accountability as a scrum master to say we are there to cause change and help change. But let's look at it from the point of view that we are a team, a scrum team. And if a product owner has that skill to evolve and influence the system to a better way of working, then great. But most product owners, I see them as people that are seeing a hierarchy above them. And that hierarchy is influencing the way that they are reacting. And that, I'd say, is a struggle, or something else for you, if you want to. You can call it something else. But that's where I see where product owners struggle, is becoming a better product owner for various reasons that are outside of their control.
That links it very much into things that we don't tend to see in the workplace, is a proper product owner community of practice. Typically, you will have product owner events, weekly events, but it becomes more about where's the product rather than how can I better myself as a product owner. And that's, and then it's the event actually evolves into more of a status update meeting. But you're right, Mark, it's how, the product, the role of the product owner is all about mastery. Your role needs to evolve, and you need to be able to become a master of your craft in that. And so it's not just about doing your 2-day product ownership training. It's about continuous learning, continuous improvement through things like communities of practice, events, that kind of thing.
So I have a little bit different area I know this is jumping topics, but I was really curious from your perspective, Mandy and Steve, where do you see the future of product owners going? I had a really interesting conversation with one of my friends who's like a product owner, product manager, and we were talking about the role of AI and do product owners need to become more dev focused? Do developers need to become more product owner focused? And should we be looking at building proof of concepts using AI? Like I know the role could get kind of blurry, but where do you guys see the role of the product owner going in the future?
It's a really interesting one because, because of AI, it's making certain kinds of development and prototypes be really rapid. And my sort of instinct is saying that the product owner role will probably go more into like a real governance, assurance, safety, that kind of an area, because that's really key. Safety is key. But I wonder if product owner role, because I think already it's happening in the world where product owner and scrum master, the roles are being sort of, meshed up together. I wonder if that's basically something that's going to continue on, which I think it probably will with AI. And in the development team, I think in the development team, I've seen it where development teams kind of own the product more. They know the product more. They can really say to you, look, that car I've built out there. Well, the utility of that car can be it can be a van, it can be a robot, it can be this, it can be that. So I think product owner's role is definitely going to change hugely.
Interesting perspective. Thanks for sharing that, Mandy.
Yeah, I'll take a slightly different approach on the answer, if I may, and it's more about the caution, because the role that we as agile professionals need to really play in this is that everything's moving at such a rapid pace, and very quickly the role of product owner could morph into something that could actually become really damaging for the team and for the organization if we're not careful, and if we don't, they're not to sort of create an environment where actually the product owner should be able to thrive. It's really that the role itself, I don't think it should evolve, but it could very much move into something that actually, where things are being produced so fast that it's almost like AI is like hot topic right now. We can, if I wanted to, in one afternoon, I could literally create an app now myself without any help. Is that right for the wider organization? Is that right for the customer? Who knows? We've got that capability now, and that's my concern, is that we are going to sort of sideline the customer, which is where the product owner can be effective, in order to get something out the door. It doesn't really matter whether it's a value. We just want to be seen to be doing something. So yeah, my answer is more about caution rather than, I think Mandy's right around governance for sure. I think there's certainly something in that as well.
I think there's something to be said though, that we can't forget that a lot of the products that are developed are for human beings, and humans are emotional people, and they have feelings which AI doesn't. So yes, the AI can build you a chair, but it will just build you something with 4 legs and that you can sit on. But only a human can tell you whether that chair is really comfortable and how it makes them feel and whether it's the right type. AI doesn't really do that sort of stuff. So I think there's still a lot of scope for product owners going forward, but they've just got to get really in tune with what customers really want. Like Simon Sinek said about, people buy why you do it, not what you do. And I think AI doesn't understand a lot of that stuff. Yeah, it can build a car, but it can't build a car that makes you, Steve, feel a certain way, right? So I think there's a lot of future for the role when it's thought of in the right way.
I think you're right. I think years ago, I would never wear a Fitbit. I was like, I don't need a Fitbit. I do loads of exercise. And I've got and I've got a smartwatch because actually we don't see, like you said, the customers don't always see things that the product owner will see. And I think in some aspects, I still think governance is really important, and I think the product owner will get more involved in governance and safety. But I think you can definitely, as a product owner, see more prototypes. You're going to be able to get more out of your teams.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Just on the point about the car thing, as I've got onto, my car is really functional. So an AI would probably create me a fairly functional car, and it'd be absolutely fine.
I'll just add one last thing to that. Gunter Varen said the future of Scrum will be something that will not be called Scrum because it will be part of the way we are working by default. It will just be the way, and it won't be called Scrum to compare with other ways of working. That's it's a bit of a narrow view because there's Kanban, there's lots of other ways. It's okay. But I'd say when we think about product owner, there's the role. We use that word a lot. There's the accountability, and there's the title. So I would hope that one day the future of the product owner will definitely be more towards that accountability than that role or that title. So, because role playing is like, I have a role to do, and it's like kind of like saying, but it's really more so about, I'm taking on the strategy, I'm taking on this part of the work, I'm taking on the product perspective of the work. So I'd hope that we'd be moving more to that in the future, rather than saying, I'm a product owner, I'm an advanced product owner, I'm a senior product owner. And it's more so about what you're bringing to the table, okay, to help the team and the product go forward from that product perspective. So it's kind of like a hope, but
there's also a lot to be said about the capability that the product owner is going to have access to. Like right now, the product owner now can have a Google alert that will tell industry trends. They will have AI-driven data analytics that will, before they've even reached the office in the morning, that's going to give them everything they need to know about the customer. That's only going to get more powerful, more, and bigger and better and bolder. So really, I think as we go forth, as AI develops and evolves, I think the capability or the emergence of what the product owner will have at their fingertips is going to become so much more powerful. And so, again, going back to just having a little bit of caution. It's more about giving product owners the capability to be able to understand and utilize the tools and things that they will have access to.
I mean, you definitely see it a lot in job descriptions and in speaking, some of the things that I try to do as well as a product owner is looking at data, but like how important is that? Is it important? Is it not important to use data when you're making decisions around product ownership?
100%. Your data is very, very important, and data is the new currency. Without a shadow of a doubt.
And I'd say measuring the right data, because we'll be measuring sometimes what it doesn't really matter. So measuring the right data that gives the responses to what we're looking at, the answers that we're looking for. From a product perspective, we're looking at value. So I'm measuring value. But that's one of the complexities of how do we define value and what is value? And there's many different types of value. There's a customer value, there's a user value, and there's also a business value. So understanding what different types of value there is will be enable us to measure that. And then Steve mentioned about OKRs. So let's also make sure that what goals we're going for have a measure attached to them, okay? And that measure is something that we can monitor over time and see it going down. So for example, customer satisfaction. It might just be a CSAT. That's fine. But as long as we're setting a goal of what we're trying to achieve, it might be a net promoter score. What are we trying to achieve? So let's fix that goal on that measurement. We want to get 20% more market share. That's the goal. And that way we can measure something. So, and then with regards to measuring what really matters, and it can also be technical things with regards to actually performance. I probably get crucified for saying that as a Scrum Master, but it's okay. But let's measure the right things about those performance. And there are things that you can measure that are actually enable us to have a signal of something that's maybe not right. Let's have a conversation. So it's also measuring what matters and using it in the way that doesn't actually defeat the object of working as a team.
Thanks for that, Mark. Steve, did you have any thoughts around that, around data-driven decisions?
I mean, yeah, for sure. I echo what Mark and Mandy say. Absolutely, it's really important to utilize data, but also it really comes down to for the training. I think it can be quite overpowering for a product owner to have access to so much information or data that comes in, and it's how we use it that's going to really help influence the decisions we make. But yeah, as long as there's a good amount of training that the product owner can have in order to be able to utilize it in the right way, yeah, absolutely.
And I think AI can help product owners when it comes to data.
Hugely.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching and listening to another episode of the Nice Agile podcast. We hope that you found it helpful. Please like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and please find us on LinkedIn. Send us a message. If you have a friend, if you know somebody who's looking for their next Agile role, they're struggling, please send them our way because we built this community to help support people. Okay, thanks everybody.